CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Welcome to OCI GoldenGate and Introduction, Oracle Groundbreakers Virtual Tour 2021 presentation. That's about me. My name is Aman Sharma. I have been working with Oracle database for around 18 plus years now. I specialize in Oracle database. I tweet over here. I'm an Oracle ace and I published 2 books as co-author, Oracle Database 12C Backup and Recovery Survival Guide and Oracle Backup and Recovery, one from the Pact publication with my good friend Francisco, and another one with my good friend Kamran. I was a former Vice President of All India Oracle Users Group. I was the co-founder of North India chapter of AI OUG. I tweet at Aman Sharma DB, and I blog at blog.aristadba.com. Before anything else, about Oracle ACE program, I believe this is one of the most, or if not the unique, one of the most unique accreditation programs that anyone actually has. I have been very blessed and fortunate to be a part of Oracle ACE program. And Oracle ACE program is basically an official recognition from Oracle about anyone who is not just technically proficient, but they also like to serve the community, the Oracle community. They like to help others. They like to help other people by any forms or ways, like writing books or answering questions on the forums or writing blogs, doing presentations like these. And this is a very, very good program, basically, where such experts are going to be known worldwide. There are 3 tiers in this program: ACE Associate, ACE, which is myself, and the last and the topmost is Oracle ACE Director. Oracle ACE Associate is the starting tier. You just need to help others, and you are basically going to be recognized for your contribution to the community. Oracle ACE program, the second tier is Oracle ACE, which is basically going to require to keep on doing the same thing, and also you have to contribute on a more regular basis. And Oracle ACE Director is basically going to be a former commitment that as a community leader, you have to basically define the path that how a certain product or product line is actually going to be working with Oracle. If you think you or know someone who is actually going to be a good fit for this recognition, you can nominate them on acenomination.oracle.com. You can send an email. You can contact through the social media channels like Twitter, Groundbreakers, or you can even check out Oracle ACE. Okay, let's talk about Oracle GoldenGate and why it is actually going to be required. So one of the problems that are in the cloud with the enterprise data is lack of availability of the data that's moving in the cloud. Now, this can happen due to planned or unplanned downtime, probably dealing with offline migrations, or maybe even due to some sort of disasters, which probably can happen either due to planned or unplanned regions in terms of different availability domains or data centers also, leading to data not being actually available. The other reason in terms of the enterprise data issues in the data cloud actually is, or in the cloud actually, is that there can be fragmentations of the data. Too many copies of the data can be floating around, maybe in on-premises environments, cloud environments, and also that can be in terms of multi-cloud environments. Now, when these kind of things are actually going to be there, there can also be some sort of challenges which possibly can be to deal with the operational and analytical data and the disconnect between the two, like how the data is going to be organized in the operational side or in the analytical side. And the last or the last reason can be the data staleness. Like there can be a data which probably is just aged out, or that is the data which is not in sync while working with the ETL systems or the batches and so. Now all of these particular issues, they can be quite a big challenge actually for the DBAs working in the cloud environments, leading to this kind of confusion that whether a data which is actually going to be in a cloud system can be possibly trusted in any kind of reports or not. Now, these kind of data, issues can be leading to some of the problems which you as a DBA probably have to solve or probably have to really get rid of. Now, the requirements for any kind of data which is actually going to be a business data in the cloud is that we possibly may need to have the business continuity, which even includes that even if there is going to be downtimes, or there is going to be any kind of issues, whether there are going to be man-made issues, or there are going to be any kind of issues which are going to be due to natural reasons like disasters and so, there has to be still business continuity, there has to be still data availability. There should also be solutions that should provide continuous integrations from for the databases which are going to be on premises, and they're going to be connected to the databases onto the cloud. And right now there is not just one cloud, so there are going to be multi-cloud scenarios as well. So there has to be solutions that there has to be some sort of ways to connect the databases which are going to be on-premise to connect to not just one cloud, but even to multi-cloud environments and even to some sort of data integrations. There should also be some timely insights, again, not just for the real-time data lakes or analytics, but also for providing timely insights on the data while the data is actually flowing. And that's basically what is going to be the major requirement whenever we are going to be dealing with the databases in the cloud actually is. So then why GoldenGate? Well, GoldenGate is basically going to be the technology that has been there now as the leading technology, and obviously that has basically done wonders actually in terms of data replication environments. GoldenGate can save time and money because it is going to deliver the continuous operations for mission critical applications to eliminate unplanned and planned downtime and related costs. GoldenGate can lower the IT costs through heterogeneous support for multiple platforms to leverage lower cost infrastructure for query offloading. GoldenGate can improve efficiencies through improved performance, scalability of real-time feeds and data distribution. And using GoldenGate, we can reduce the risk by ensuring data integrity and reliability between source and target systems. We can actually reduce the barriers to share the data because it has no application impact for real-time data acquisitions, and it can provide visibility and business insight. And GoldenGate can provide extensibility and flexibility by meeting a variety of needs and data environments with open and model architectures of it, which means it's a very good product actually in terms of doing data replications and so. And that's where the GoldenGate cloud infrastructure managed service actually comes in. Now, OCI GoldenGate or OCI GoldenGate service is actually going to be the same GoldenGate that we already know, but it is now going to be available as a fully managed service in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. which means that now it is actually going to be a combination of best of both worlds. It's a cloud native service, fully managed, which means that it is now going to be completely handled by Oracle, which includes the patching, upgrades, so on and so forth. It is actually going to be based upon the latest 21C microservices architecture, and it is going to support auto scalability. There are very different variety of use cases which are actually going to be available in terms of the OCI GoldenGate, and you can actually use it with the on-premise databases starting from the versions 11.204 and higher, and also with autonomous databases. So where exactly this particular service is, and obviously this is also available in the previous versions as a marketplace offering also in the Oracle Cloud, but here in terms of this architecture, it is actually going to be a fully managed service, which means all the nitty-gritties actually to handle this particular service is actually going to be taken care by the Oracle itself onto its Oracle Cloud infrastructure hardware stack, which means all what we are actually supposed to be doing is basically to deploy it and handle the use case of it, which is actually what we're going to be seeing just now. So when it comes to the use cases actually of the OCI GoldenGate, some of the most common use cases are actually going to be supporting the on-premises to Oracle Cloud integration. That means we are going to be taking our on-premises databases to Oracle Cloud. Probably maybe we want to consolidate them in the Oracle Cloud, or maybe we want to migrate our on-premise databases into the Oracle Cloud using the bidirectional capabilities. There is also going to be the support for multi-region use cases where we want to use it for logical replications across different cloud regions, sort of like providing sharding capabilities where different databases are available across different geographical places. We can also use it in terms of SaaS, where if you are going to be someone who is going to be using SaaS applications, you can actually stream the transactions directly from your SaaS applications into a cloud data store. For example, if you might have made a data store using the autonomous data warehouse, you can actually stream your transactions directly from your SaaS applications into the cloud data store. You can use it actually in, like I said before, in terms of multi-cloud use cases as well, where maybe you have one application which is probably running in a non-Oracle cloud, and it is possibly going to end in an Oracle cloud or maybe on an on-premise endpoint. And you can, using OCI GoldenGate, you don't need to be actually really required to create a centralized kind of environment where these two particular applications are actually going to meet. And that means you're going to be actually having your replication done, but in terms of a very, very simplified manner. Now, when it comes to the technical part, this is how the UI flow of the GoldenGate is actually going to be. Just like the GoldenGate actually already is there, we are going to be having a deployment console, which is from where we're going to manage everything. We're going to see actually how to create this deployment console in the presentation. This is going to be the main console from where we're going to be actually doing all the tasks in terms of setting up the GoldenGate, which includes managing the different servers like administration, distribution, performance, and so. And the way it is actually going to be working is that using the OCI console, we're going to be requiring to have different kinds of things actually required to be created for this particular environment. We're going to be actually using the OCI console, and in the OCI console, we're going to be actually creating a GoldenGate deployment. We would need the databases which are going to be registered with this particular service, and then using that, we are actually going to be basically creating the particular data paths to connect and to work with the GoldenGate. Now, within the network side, we would be requiring a public endpoint or a public subnet to be available within the virtual cloud network, and we are going to be actually using this to connect to other particular parts. Like over here, we're going to be having one cloud data center region one, and we're actually using this as a public subnet to set up our extract and replicate, and we're actually using this basically to connect to our particular private subnet where we do have our autonomous data warehouse or our DBaaS, and we're actually using it to set up the replication. Now, in terms of the setup, like I said before, we are going to be requiring a virtual cloud network, and you can actually create this using a simple VCN, using the VCN wizard. You're going to be requiring, depending upon the need, a public or a private subnet. Definitely it is better to use private if you're going to be using it for enterprise, but if you're going to be doing it for testing purpose, maybe a public is actually going to be fine too. You're going to be requiring databases, of course, a source and target, and the GoldenGate deployment. The GoldenGate Deployment Console is required to be created as on a public endpoint in case you want to open it up on your local system from the browser. If not, it is actually going to require some sort of bastion machine. Otherwise, you would not be able to access it, from your normal machine or from your local machine. Now, in order to actually go ahead and create this particular system, this is how the deployment is actually going to be started. So the GoldenGate deployment is actually going to be available in the Oracle Cloud under the databases GoldenGate, and you would be requiring to supply a couple of things actually in terms of the options. To create the deployment, just like any other things, you're going to be requiring to give it a name, and you would have to select the particular compartment in which the deployment is actually going to be created. Now you can actually notice that we are actually using it, and it is going to be in a certain compartment. You can actually select the number of OCPUs, and the GoldenGate OCI GoldenGate service is actually going to be charged accordingly. It can be auto scaling up to the 3 times of the configuration, and you have to select basically for that. You can select the licensing option, whichever is actually going to be required. It could be a license which you can bring, or it can be a new license. And the next page of the wizard is actually going to ask you to select the GoldenGate instance and the admin name for that. Like in this example, we're using ggadmin, or it can be any particular username that you're actually going to be needing. Once it is going to be done, you can actually see that the deployment is actually created. If there is going to be any version or new version which is actually going to be available, you would be able to see it from the console. Like in this particular screenshot, it is the latest version that we did have at that time of creation. But if there is going to be a new version available, you would be shown that particular version over here, and you can actually upgrade to that version right from here. You can see the console URL, and you can also launch the console using the launch console button. There are going to be matrices available, and we will see some of them at the end of the presentation. The launch of the console is actually going to require that the particular console is going to be running on a public endpoint, which is what I mentioned before. Otherwise, you would not be able to access it from your local machine. Now, once the deployment is created, you would be required to register the database or databases basically in your OCI GoldenGate deployment. This is going to be a part of the same page. You have to go to the registered databases and then click on the button register database, supply the name, the database information, the compartment in which it is, and then mention the particular database options, like which database it is. It can be an autonomous or other databases, and supply the particular database username and the password of that. Once the databases are registered, you can actually use them in terms of configuring or in terms of using them in the GoldenGate deployment later on. Now we do have the deployment created, and now what we are doing, basically we are launching it from the local system. So we are basically clicking on the launch console. It opens up the page which is in the middle and supply the administrator username and password. And now we are actually in the particular GoldenGate deployment console, where we can actually set up everything, or we can actually configure the things and manage them. In this particular screenshot, we are actually having one extract and one replicate actually shown as running, but we can actually set them up in terms of the configuration later on. Like in microservices architecture, the entire set of administration tasks are actually going to be done from the administration server. So in this particular set of screenshots, we can actually see what kind of things we can actually do in terms of the administration server. So like always, we can see in the administration server what configurations we're actually running. So for example, in this part, we are running one extract and one replicate. We can see their status, whether they are running or not, what kind of extract and replicate we have actually created. Like in this example, our extract is an integrated extract and our replicate is a non-integrated one. We can define the status, whether they are required to be running, stopped, so on and so forth. We can look into the diagnostics part using the log information, so we can actually see the messages from the GGS error log right from here, and we can also look at the overview. We can actually set up the entire configuration part basically from the same page using the configuration section, which means we can actually see whether we are able to connect to the databases correctly. We can actually set up the databases and the schema within the databases, for which we can create, or we can start the supplemental log. We can actually see, in case we're going to be having the replicate, whether the checkpoint table is created or not in the particular schema, and if not, we can actually create that. So it means that any kind of configurations which are required basically for setting up the replication using the OCI GoldenGate can be set up from the administration server over here. Here is what we are actually running. We are actually running the extracts and replicates, and using the action menu, we can actually do the management of them. So we can obviously create the particular processes from here, or in case they're already created, we can actually set the configuration tasks for them. For example, we can stop them, or we can force stop them, or we can actually stop them in the background. In case we want to create a new one, we can click on the plus sign and we can actually start the particular process depending upon our particular need. In case we want to manage the metrics, or we want to check whatever is going on in terms of our particular GoldenGate replication, we can actually check it using the performance metrics server. So depending upon whichever process we are actually willing to see, just like in the on-premise environment or in terms of the microservices GoldenGate environment, we can actually see the entire set of details of the processes from the performance metric server. So in this part, we can actually see all the particular processes, administration server, distribution, or replicates, and so they're actually running, and we can actually see the details of the statistics of each process, like what the process is actually doing in terms of this particular part, how much amount of IO, memory, CPU they're actually consuming, so on and so forth. The same kind of details we can actually see for the particular extracts or the replicates. Like in this screenshot, we can actually see there is an extract which is actually registered, and then we can actually see what are the other details of the process actually is going to be, the port numbers on which they're actually running, so on and so forth. Now, in terms of managing the deployment, this is basically what we were saying before. So in case you want to upgrade, you would be able to see that there is a new version available in this particular deployment. And if there is going to be a new version available, there is going to be an option shown upgrade, which you can actually choose. And you can actually upgrade the deployment to the newest version. There can be also the metrics that we can actually use for the entire configuration. So we can actually see what kind of structures we do actually have, what is actually being run, what are the number of OCPUs that we actually are using, and whether they're actually going to be enough for us or not. And we can also create something called alarms, basically for different set of requirements. So we can actually set up an alarm, for example, like if a service is not working or it's not working efficiently, then there is going to be an alarm that we can actually create basically for that. And we can actually see the alarm status. And based upon that, the particular alarm is actually going to sort of like ring, and we would be able to come to know that, that particular issue is actually going to be there with our deployment. And using that, we can possibly take the corrective actions in the system. In the same way, we can actually look into the health checks and see that if everything is working properly in the deployment console or not, which obviously means that the entire management of the OCI GoldenGate deployment is actually going to be more on UI based, and you are not really going to be requiring to do many or most of the tasks using anything else, which makes it a very, very easy to use solution, and definitely a very fast solution as compared to do anything else, or even as compared to manage the GoldenGate on your own using the command line or so. Now, the support in OCI GoldenGate is actually for a very wide variety of configurations or databases actually. For example, you can actually use it in terms of the databases which are available within the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. You can actually use the source as OCI DB. Even the target can be OCI DB. You can actually use it for on-premise to OCI. It can be available even in the cross regions or from non-Oracle Cloud to the OCI. You could be using it from on-prem to on-prem as well if you want to. It can be available from autonomous databases to autonomous databases or vice versa. So in case you are using autonomous databases and you are going to be requiring to set up the replication between an autonomous OLTP database and an autonomous data warehouse database running in the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, using OCI GoldenGate, it can be actually possible. In the same way, you could be running, the same part in terms of non-Oracle DBs to the OCI as well. You could actually set it up for streams analytics and as a data service, and that means that you could be using the OCI GoldenGate not just for replication but even for the data stream services as well. And since it is completely managed by Oracle, that means the availability and the performance is actually going to be absolutely fine. So to sum up the particular OCI GoldenGate environment, it is a fully managed platform service, and it is actually going to be running as a logical replication solution basically to any kind of virtual cloud network through any WAN. It is going to be supporting the cross-region replication, and it is going to be available for on-premises, third-party clouds, and definitely Oracle clouds. The hardware is going to support the best of the particular hardware performance, and it is actually going to support the Exadata and Exadata Cloud as well. Obviously, it is going to be having the high-speed integration to the Oracle logs, and any databases starting from 11 to 04 in terms of on-premise are actually going to be available basically inside it, which makes it an extremely good particular interface actually to use. And that completes this particular presentation. In case you have any questions, I tweet over here, I blog here, and you can reach out to me on this particular email. Thanks a lot, and I hope it is actually going to be useful for you to play around with the OCI GoldenGate environment. Thank you.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.